Good morning, fellow Hoops fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Last Shot NBA show here on Little Birdie TV. And as always, we are brought to you by our good friends at topsport.com.au. Now it's Wednesday morning. You know what Wednesday mornings mean? It means that I can't speak this Wednesday morning. It means we've got a very special guest. And this week we are joined by NBA writer at Fox Sports, and he may or may not be a best-selling author on the New York Times bestsellers list, Mr. Yaron Weitzman. How are you, sir?
I'm good. And can I tell you something? I am a best-selling author because I figured this out. Amazon, they have like 1 million categories, and basically you can become a bestseller in anything. I forget at one point, I was best-selling in like sports psychology at some point or something. Anyway, so I think that lets me label myself as a best-selling author, and then you just let people assume it's New York Times. How's that?
For the people that don't know, Yaron's written a fantastic book on the Philadelphia 76ers. I really can't talk this morning, called Tanking to the Top. So please do check that out. It was a fantastic read. Obviously gets into a lot of the Ben Simmons stuff as well. And actually, you know what, Yaron? I was going to start off with the Phoenix Suns today, but we're already talking about the Philadelphia 76ers. You've covered that team for the better part of about 2-3 seasons over there in Philadelphia, going back and forth from New York. So let's just get stuck into a little bit about the Philadelphia 76ers right now. The Ben Simmons situation, potential James Harden landing spot in a trade. There's been rumors out there. But first of all, let's start off with Joel Embiid, because he's having a pretty incredible stretch over the last, month and a half. We've just got a tweet that we're going to throw up on the screen now in terms of the numbers that he's been putting up. And he's actually averaging more points than minutes over the last 4 games. He's having a fantastic stretch. Yaron, what have you made of Embiid's stretch, over the last month and a half and this season, in general?
How's this for a descriptive analysis? That he's amazing. But he's gotten better and better every year. He's sort of completed his game to this point where he added the shot. He's passed. I think his assist rate is higher than ever. His turnover rate is lower than ever. The thing with Embiid, and I've phrased this with people when you talk about the Sixers, and it also factors into the Ben Simmons stuff, is when he's at his best, when he's at his best, he is the best player on the floor. Like the Sixers can have the best player on the floor with Joel Embiid, no matter who they're playing. It doesn't matter if they're playing LeBron and the Bucks, Kevin Durant and the Nets, LeBron and the Lakers, Giannis and the Bucks, Kevin Durant and the Nets. Embiid has the potential to be better than all of them. At his best, he's better than all of them, or he can be better than all of them, and we're seeing that now. The question obviously becomes, how far can he carry them? And the other question is, and this has always been the question with Embiid, you got the New York City Sirens behind me. There you go, Nick. That's going to remind you of when you used to live here.
Yeah, I missed those, actually.
The question with Embiid always is, come playoff time, can he be healthy enough to play every other day for 2 months, right? That's basically the question with Embiid is, can he be at the top of his game and play every game, every other day for 2 months straight? And if he can do that, the Sixers have a legitimate chance. We have not seen him do that ever before in his career.
We haven't seen him do that before in his career. And the fear that I have, so far this season is he's basically doing it all on his own. And I've said this before, Tobias Harris has been inconsistent. Seth Curry's kind of, stepped up. But if you're relying on Seth Curry, no disrespect to him, you do need to add some reinforcements to your squad. He's doing it all on his own. And I was worried that he was going to burn himself out. He hasn't shown signs of that as yet. But like you said, once the playoffs come around and you have to do it every other night, that's going to become an issue.
Yeah, right. And he hasn't burned himself out, but they're asking him. The best way to think about what they're asking him to be is, I don't think there's another player in the NBA who's asked to carry the load and be the focal point on both ends of the floor. And that if he's not at the top of his game on both ends of the floor, everything that his team does falls apart, right? Embiid is, I think, the only guy who falls into that category. So it's the minutes, but it's also the load they're asking of him. And I think, it's definitely a question. And the Sixers, Ben Simmons, for all his faults, and I'm sure we'll get to them, especially in the regular season, he gave you a lot of cover in terms of what he was able to do and how he's able to contribute to winning.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And look, we're going to get into Ben Simmons right now because the way I look at this Philadelphia 76ers team is, Embiid needs some help, right? And Daryl Morey has said that, we're kind of at a stalemate with this whole Daryl Morey and Simmons thing. Simmons is adamant that he's never going to play for the 76ers again. And Daryl Morey is saying, look, we're not trading him for anything, less than what we think he's valued at. And, we're not getting any closer to a resolution, to this. Daryl Morey said a Simmons trade before the deadline is, quote, less than likely. I want to ask you, first of all, what's your thoughts on this whole stalemate that's going on in Philadelphia right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's unprecedented, right? Have we ever seen what's the closest analog we've seen of a standoff between two team and a player? Like, what would be the example? Like Harden, Jimmy Butler, but like they played or they happened fast. What is there another example like this?
No, I can't think of one. I can't. I was going to say Harden, but that was like, Harden put in a trade request and it seemed like a week later he was gone, if that.
Yeah, right. And he played, or, played, we can put in quotes there, but he was on the court in uniform, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this thing's fascinating, obviously. I think the way I look at it is I think both sides have been and are surprised and are thrown off by the way the other side is acting and how the other side hasn't bent to their will, right? I think Simmons assumed, you request a trade. I'm a superstar. I pull the I'm holding out move. The team will eventually acquiesce the way the Rockets did, the way the Timberwolves did, the way teams usually do in today's NBA. And I think Daryl Morey assumed that, okay, I'm going to hold strong and not trade him. And like no player is going to risk or give up this much money and be willing to sit out this long. And I think they're both thrown off by the other one, sort of not reacting the way that the other party expect them to. So we see that. But I also think like Daryl Morey, this is not people say this is a compliment. I don't necessarily see it that, but to me, if you ask me to bet, the betting move would be the bet I would make is that no trade is made before the deadline. Now, obviously, we see a lot of rumors now and things being come out, and whatever Daryl Morey says on a radio interview about less than likely, like these are all public negotiating tactics. These are all him trying to say, hey, we don't need to make a trade, so you better come with a good offer. Don't bring us that lowball stuff that you're expecting to bring a few days before the deadline. There are a few, like the Kings are a team who can maybe put together a trade package where it would be interesting to see if Morey would give up on that. Like if the Kings offered Halliburton, Barnes, and Hield and a first-round pick and offered to take back Tobias Harris as well, like is that something where you're not getting a superstar, but you're getting flexibility and young players and picks and you're getting better now? To me, that's an interesting trade to wonder, would Daryl Morey say no to that one? And it goes into the James Harden stuff, which I'm sure we'll talk about, is how confident is he that Harden's coming, or how much is he willing to bet? How much is he willing to gamble or give up this season in order to place the bet that Harden comes next year?
Well, from everything that I've seen, it looks like that's what he's holding out for. And I saw a report this morning, and I'm sure you've seen it obviously earlier in the day for you with James Harden today. It says that he's unhappy with Kyrie Irving's part-time status in Brooklyn. Obviously, James Harden came to Brooklyn to win a championship, and having Kyrie there for only half the games, he's obviously not helping that cause. He's unhappy with Steve Nash's closing lineups in games. Steve Nash prefers to go more with the hot hand than fixed crunch time lineups. He's unhappy with living in Brooklyn. He doesn't like the cold weather as well, apparently. And he's also...
That was a great sentence. What was that sentence? Read that sentence. You have it open? It was like he's about being a Houston magnate or something.
A central Houston magnate. It was. I have to reread that sentence like 3 times. And he's also unhappy with the state income tax in New York, because apparently there is none in Houston, as far as I know.
That was also a good sentence, I remember. It was also a little... Do you have it open? The writing? It was also.
I don't, unfortunately. But
it was a funny one. Anyway, yeah.
Look, when you're getting paid $44 million a season, you do want to keep as much of that money as possible. So it does look like Daryl Morey is holding out. I mean, he's prepared to wait till the summer, I guess, and see what happens with Harden. And apparently, there was again in the report from Jake Fisher from Bleacher Report. He suggested James Harden is open to going to Philadelphia.
So a couple thoughts on this. One, I think if you ask Daryl Morey, he would say, of course I'm open, or I want James Harden. James Harden's great. The question is, Is he the only guy he wants, right? That's kind of, there's a distinction there, right? So Daryl Morey 100% is interested in James Harden. I can report that without even knowing, right? I feel comfortable saying that Daryl Morey would like James Harden to be on his team. Does that mean would prefer the chance of James Harden as opposed to, again, like the guarantee thing of a Kings offer, like I mentioned before? Would he rather James Harden? Let's say Bradley Beal hasn't signed his extension yet, and let's say the Wizards decided to kind of hit the reset button and they put Beal on the table. Would Daryl Morey say, nope, not interested in Beal, only want James Harden? Like, these are the distinctions and the questions that I find interesting and that I don't know the answer to. In terms of the Harden and Brooklyn stuff, I mean, yeah, the Nets, I think the Nets their whole thinking now is they know the regular season's going to be bumpy. They know the players, these guys, they can get a little moody with how things are going. It's not going great necessarily. And yet, what are they in third place in the East right now with Kevin Durant out? Like, the whole thing is, let's get to the playoffs. Once we get to the playoffs, let's get everyone on the court. And once we're in the playoffs with these guys on the court, nobody's going to be able to beat us. And they might be right.
At the very least, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen with this whole Harden situation, Simmons and the 76ers. At the very least, it's providing us a lot of things to talk about.
Content, baby.
Content, baby. I agree with you. I don't think Simmons actually gets dealt before the trade deadline right now, unless like some massive Godfather style offer comes through that Daryl Morey can't say no to. Moving on, Yaron, I want to talk a little bit about the Phoenix Suns. Because you know what, for me personally, like despite them making the NBA Finals like last year, I thought that was kind of a perfect storm situation for them, and they got this nice little run through to the NBA Finals. And I guess I was underestimating them a little bit because they're backing it up again this season. They've been absolutely fantastic. They're on a league best 7-game winning streak after beating the Jazz. They're now tied for their best start to the season through 46 games. They're 37-9, matching the 06-07 team. I want to ask you, Yaron, can they legitimately win the title this season?
For sure. I was going to say, are we allowed to talk about the Phoenix Suns if we're talking about content, right? That's kind of the joke of it, is that you have this team that made the finals last year, and then it's coming back and has been the best team in the NBA this season. And I think it's, last I checked, it's like number 1 in defense and 5 in offense.
Yes,
or 3 and something like that. And they've won 9 out of 10, 7 in a row. They got stars. They're loaded. They brought back the whole team. And yeah, we all kind of like, okay, who's the favorite this year? Maybe, we shouldn't be ignoring the Suns. 100% the Suns can win the title. They're great. They're really a really good team. Like I said, they're top 5 offense and defense. They have shot creators who can score when the game slows down, and Chris Paul and Devin Booker. They have role players. They have a good coach. There's continuity there. Like, the Suns are really, really good. To me, if you kind of look at if you break down the kind of circle of contenders, right, you're going to put them, the Warriors, and then probably the 3 teams in the East of the Heat, the Bucks, and the Nets. Maybe another team can break through either here or there in either conference. But like, you tell me any of those 5 teams win the title, I am not surprised.
Yeah, no, either am I. And look, the thing I will say about the Suns is, and especially the thing that's, I guess, impressed me more this season is the depth at center. Because last year they were relying on DeAndre Ayton a hell of a lot. And then you bring in guys like, they weren't even expected to bring in Bismack Biyombo to begin with. But JaVale McGee's been fantastic. And Bismack Biyombo, who, coming in, signing a 10-day contract, obviously got that guaranteed for the rest of the season because he's been playing absolutely incredibly. The Suns, Ayton's missed 19 games this season, and the Suns are 16-3 in those games. And JaVale McGee and Bismack Biyombo are a huge reason why.
Yeah, and in the playoffs, right, like you saw last year where they would have trouble when Ayton went out, trying to get spot minutes from Frank Kaminsky at the 5 or other things. And like in the playoffs, those kind of things matter. Where can we get 8-9 minutes from our backup center without things falling apart? Just tread water until guy comes back. So that's a huge difference, right? That was one of their lone weaknesses, and they plugged it. So again, like, are the Suns overwhelming favorites? No, but they are 100% a legitimate championship contender, and nobody should be surprised if they're in the finals and winning the title this year.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think they're overwhelming favorites, but I tell you what, I think they're slowly becoming overwhelming favorites in the West because the Warriors are starting to cool off a little bit, and the Suns are not. Look, obviously, there's still a long way to go. We're only at the halfway point of the season, so anything can happen, and I've been known to be wrong before, but I do think the Suns are slowly inching towards being overwhelming favorites in the West. Another team I want to move on to that's surprised me a little bit this season, Yaron. So we do a segment called Buying or Selling here, and we're going to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. because they're a hell of a lot better than I thought that they were, and probably a hell of a lot better than a lot of people thought that team was going to be. So I say to you, the Cleveland Cavaliers can cause a playoff upset this season. Are you buying or selling it?
Ooh, I'm selling while buying. How about that? So I'm selling. How's that for a cop out? I'm selling the specific question on the specific question because the East is really good, and if you're going to win a playoff series, that means you're probably beating either Miami, Brooklyn, Milwaukee. Who am I forgetting? Chicago, right? Is that the fourth one I'm forgetting?
Yeah.
And those 4 teams, I'm not even counting Philadelphia. We'll see what happens there. But those are 4 really, really good teams, right? And I don't think Cleveland can quite beat one of those teams in a playoff series. Do I think do I think they can make some noise? And do I love what they've built? And do I think they have an incredibly bright future? Yes. To me, it's almost 2 separate discussions, right? In terms of winning a playoff series this year, not including the play-in tournament. Again, I'd be very, very surprised because more about those teams, more about how good the top of the East is, as opposed to me having any problems with Cleveland as a basketball team. But Cleveland's got a bright future, man. They're really good, and Cavs fans should be excited.
All right. Well, you gave me I'm buying but I'm selling it type of answer. I'm going to give you my answer. I'm buying it, but with a caveat. And the caveat is, yes, I think they can win a playoff series depending on the matchup. They're obviously the
that's the same thing as me, man. That's a BS answer too.
Yeah, fair enough. Because I do think, I think if they get a Philadelphia, I think they could beat a Philadelphia in a 7-game series, despite Joel Embiid probably being, an absolute monster. I think if they get a Milwaukee, look, I've picked Milwaukee to go back to back, so yeah, okay, yeah. Cleveland's been great, though. They've been great. Evan Mobley, I think, is the clear rookie of the year so far. I mean, that could change, but I think he's just been absolutely impressive. Darius Garland's been impressive. Jared Allen, like Jerry Seinfeld, he's the straw that stirs the drink. He's the Mayana, So he sort of really connects that team, and he's the glue there. So, I think we agree on that one there. I'm buying it, but with a caveat, depending on the matchup. Look, Yaron, we're going to move on to some game.
By the way, that's called selling. I'm letting you know. That's called selling. Buying with a caveat is selling, okay?
Down here in Australia, it's just called buying with a caveat. We're going to move on to some game predictions because we know you're a busy man. You got to get off. So we're not going to keep you too long. We're going to take a look at some games on the schedule today. We'll start off with the Philadelphia 76ers and the New Orleans Pelicans. 76ers favorites here, $1.16. The Pelicans, $5.70. The line's at -11. Total is at 212.5. That one's live on NBA League Pass today. Pelicans playing second night of a back-to-back. Sixers beat Spurs last Sunday. Philly has won 11-14. And look, the way that Embiid is playing, it's pretty hard to pick against Philadelphia, especially New Orleans, because New Orleans is bad, even though they beat my New York Knicks the other day.
You asking my pick? Is that what I'm doing? I'm giving my pick?
Yes.
Okay. We go money line or spread here? I can't do NBA spread. I'll do money line. How about
that? All right, give us the money line. Also? Give us whatever you want.
Okay. The Sixers are beating the Pelicans, but I cannot guarantee that they will win by 11 points.
Okay. Is that the caveat?
That's the caveat. Yes, yes. I am buying the Sixers with the caveat that I have no idea how to bet NBA single games like that with a spread. So
that's all right. All right, we'll move on to the next game here. We've got the Lakers and the Nets. The Lakers $1.59 favorites. Brooklyn Nets $2.46. The line's at 4. Totals at 226. That one's live on ESPN. I'm sorry. The Lakers have begun their Grammy road trip. So this one's being played in Brooklyn. No Kyrie Irving. Anthony Davis is probable for this one here. Nick Claxton questionable for Brooklyn. KD out as well. I want to ask you, I actually think, despite all that, I agree with the money. I think the Lakers are going to win this one for some reason. Melo's coming back home to Brooklyn. I want to ask you, along with your pick, how does a potential AD return help this squad right now?
Does Melo get another I'm coming home video? Does that happen?
Yes.
He goes back to Brooklyn?
Yes.
I hope so. I'm going the Lakers as well. And here's a hot take. Anthony Davis returning to the Lakers makes them a much better team.
Whoa,
it's much needed.
You heard it here first, guys. You heard it here first. This is an exclusive.
It's exclusive, an exclusive take. Anthony Davis, that was jokes aside, like this roster is thin. Like they had talent, they had an awful job in the offseason. That's a separate conversation, right? We all know everything that happened. Yeah, they need LeBron and Anthony Davis at the top of their games to win games. So obviously they need Davis, and Davis coming back is huge. And they're going to have to figure out some way to get some sort of continuity between him, LeBron, and Russell Westbrook. And the only way you can do that is if you share the court.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. So we're both going Lakers on that one there. Next game we're going to take a look at here. We've got the Hornets and the Raptors. Raptors $1.75 favorites. The Hornets $2.15. They're actually a really fun team to watch. The Hornets, I like them.
What's this $1.70? What's this? I don't understand this money favorite things. I've never seen this before. What's that?
Okay, I'll explain it all to you off air because we are running out of time as well.
My bad.
We'll get into this here. So the line's at -2.5. Totals at 222.5. Live on NBA League Pass. The Hornets 7-3 in their last 10 games, looking to cement their first playoff spot in about 5 years, I believe. Gordon Hayward, day-to-day with an injury. Raps 10-10 at home, 22-22 on the season. Nick Nurse has been playing a really short rotation. Those guys are tired. I'm actually going with Charlotte in this one here.
Are you? I'm going with the Raptors, and I have no specific reason why. Just playing well. How about that? So, Raptors.
Raptors. All right, done. That's another exclusive right here. Next up, last game we're going to take a look at is the Mavericks and the Warriors. Warriors, $1.63 favorite. Dallas Mavericks, 238. The line's at -3.5. Total is at 210.5. Live on NBA League Pass. The Mavericks, on ESPN. Oh, I really need caffeine this morning. The Mavericks are 8-2 in their last 10. They're actually one of the hottest teams in the league right now. The Warriors just 5-5. No Draymond, no Iguodala. Klay Thompson is considered questionable to play this game. Luka Doncic is absolutely balling. Porzingis is having a pretty decent season as well. Once a Nick, always a Nick. And I am actually going with the Dallas Mavericks to get the win away at the Golden State Warriors today.
I agree. The Mavericks, I think number 4, number 5 in defense overall in the season, which is incredible. I don't think most people know that, despite making no big personnel changes. So yeah, I'll go with Dallas. How about this? We'll take the under. You got the two of the top 5 defensive teams here. So how's that for some analysis? There's some gambling analysis for you.
There you go. We're taking the Mavericks at the under. Yaron, it's been a pleasure to chat hoops with you, my friend. Good to see you. We'd love to have you on again, hopefully by the end of the season. But we know you are a busy man and a best-selling author, so hopefully you can find the time again.
Best-selling author. Thanks, buddy. Good talking to you. My kids didn't come in. This is great. We made it through. I love it.
We made it through. Thank you very much. We're going to be back, guys, for another episode on Friday morning. Old mate Benyam Kadane, of course, will be joining us. This has been the Last Shot NBA show here on Little Birdie TV. As always, we are brought to you by our good friends at topsport.com.au, and we'll see you guys on Friday.